Where's number 3? Okay, now go run to number 1 and come back. Go ahead, just go. Just go. There you go. Don't think. Just go. Run around number 1, come back. Go number 2. Go number 2. Go number 3. Come on back. Why am I doing that now? Why am I doing it at the very beginning? What do they teach you in those cutting drills? The cutting drills that, and we have the accessibility. If you guys don't know, we actually have the membership to Rise Up. Is it Rise Up Ultimate?
Yes.
Yeah, Rise Up Ultimate has a lot of videos series on it, and we can get access to it because we're coaching and volunteering and stuff like that. You can log on, and it has all these great videos that break a lot of these things down. But they show it to you. But it's one thing showing it. It's like you can be a great coach, but not a great athlete. Or a great athlete, or a great athlete can't be a great coach. You can't coach kids who are frustrated the heck out of them. So when you look at, we always are having them stand in a cone, line up in a cone, doing stuff like that. So you say, all right, we're going to stand at number 1 cone. You're going to go from number 1 to number 2 to number 3 to number 4. So if you're working on cutting or instructing things like that, then eventually they're going to pick up, and I'll kind of explain some of the drills and stuff. But if I'm going to move and I want them to move, you get to see how they move. When we talk about cutting, you talk about speed up, choppy feet, change of direction, and then speed up again. I give the analogy of a cliff. Imagine you're running to the end of the cliff, and let's stop before I go off the end of the cliff. So when we have the disc, we want to teach the kids how to start throwing it. You're going to watch what they're doing. I always have the kids hold their discs for me when we start off. So I'm just going to go through different things, but everything's always a ready position. So in baseball, your ready position, I'm going to have their hands and their knees like this. In basketball, ready position is the same thing. Your hands are out. Okay? When you're doing ultimate, you kind of want to have ready. What it's all about? It's about balance. It's about ready to be on your toes. So before we even stick this in their hands, even though they're going to have it, you might take this and our warm-ups, okay, I want everyone to put their disc down in front of you. You have your disc down there. Okay, everyone's going to put your feet shoulder width apart so the disc is right in front of you there. Now, what I want you to do is when I say go, I want you to just jump from one side of the disc to the other side with your feet open. They go like this. They jump back. Jump this. So if you're going to do your warm-ups, your plyometrics, anything like that, you're going to work with the kids, use the disc as part of your workout stuff. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take one step over the disc, and as you bend down, I want your knee to come down to the disc. As they're coming down, they're now stretching their quadriceps. Those kind of stuff that's doing that. Or now I'm going to step over the disc and bending and sitting back, stretching the hamstrings. Those kind of stuff. So you use the disc as much as you can to engage them because it's there. It's a distraction instead of because how many of you have learned to play with the kids smacking each other all the time? Where they're taking the disc and they're going like this, they're chasing each other and they're whacking. I had 3 boys last year, earlier whenever we did it, and they were just going after each other. Throwing it, hitting each other, jumping on top of each other, attacking each other. But when we started engaging them, using the disc, having this way, having the disc, holding it up in their hands like this, reaching out, holding it this way, bring this out this way, taking the disc, bringing it down, holding it like this. A lot of Simon Says stuff. Why am I doing that? Teaching the grasps of how they're going to have to do this eventually. Hey, I want you to hold the disc like this now. I want you to move off to the side over here. Bring it off to the side over there. Just getting them comfortable with holding the disc, depending upon the age, because you can't assume that every kid knows how to do it. Never do that, because right off the bat you say, oh, they know how to play. Sometimes kids won't say that they don't know, because they don't want to be embarrassed by it. Because the competition in life is, well, they say you must be able to do this by a certain age, you must be able to do this. They might not know how to do it. So you're going to have to work with them as best you can. So as coaches, as volunteers, don't assume, just kind of work with them as best you can. So after you have them all warm up and go through different things, we go through the basic idea of throwing the disc. And I always kind of just do the claw with the kids, the lobster claw idea. You have your 4 fingers and you have your thumb. They're going to just hold it. Or if I say, okay, hey, give me, nice to meet you. Okay, good, now I put a disc in your hand as you kind of go through that. So you change it, it's like, hey, can you give me a handshake? I'll go like this. And as you shake, as you grab it, you're saying it's the wrong way. So you have to kind of turn it as you're going to grab it. So they're shaking the disc. You're shaking hands with the disc. So that's going to come into play later on when we're actually working on a flick. Even though they're not just, even though that's not how you're throwing the flick, but it's also going to give that concept of, here's how I want to do this. I want to come out, shake hands with the kids. Figure out also lefty or righty. The reason why we have them throw it over and over again, whether they're throwing it like this upside down, throwing it flopping, things like that, have to toss a disc. If you're not sure about it, what I also bring with me is tennis balls. I bring tennis balls with me to instruct, and I'll show you other ways to use it. The tennis ball itself, you can say, hey, I just want you to take a ball and just throw it, just throw as far as you can. That way you can determine, as a coach, whoever you're going to work with, what is their dominant hand? How are they going to throw it? How are they going to take it and step and throw that? So you have that ready position, they're working on the balance, they're getting all set to go, and they want to make sure their eyes are watching you. So a lot of things that you're going to do, you want their eye contact. Hey, can you see what I'm doing? Can you see what, hey, how you doing? How are we doing? How are we doing? How are we doing? You doing okay? All right, here's what I want you to do. Go find number 2, go. And they're like, what? Just go find number 2, go. And they just run and come back. It gets them back on task again. And it's just like the coach said, no, just go run laps. Those kind of things. So we want to watch how they're going to grasp it. A lot of times the younger kids that I see, they do this. They have that finger on top because they're accustomed to it, because a lot of the frisbees that they're going to get are either these little rinky-dinky things, or they don't have a full-fledged ultimate disc because it's cut-off ones that are actually not full size. They can't really get their whole hands around it. Cut size that way. So I bring these 3 discs here because sometimes I'll get that little kid that I just want them to learn the motion. So on throwing, and one thing I was kind of talking about this before, is how many of you actually, when you're teaching them throwing, you have them just stand straight without moving their legs yet? So yeah, so a lot of times what I'll have them do is just stand there, not just have their feet. Now, I guess all the fields, more or less a lot of times the fields have the lines. So if they don't have a line on the field, I would say you can bring some sort of rope. Well, if you can't get a rope, like, it doesn't have to be a jump rope, but any rope, something that's a tangible line that you can use. The other thing that I use, if I know that there's no line, is I use a pool noodle. That's cut in half, that's flat. Every kid will get a pool noodle and they'll stand right there at that spot. The purpose of the pool noodle is I can instruct flick, backhand, stepping over, balancing position. If I want the kid to be on their heels, or I want them on their toes, you stand on the pool noodle, your heels are up, you're on your toes. Because why do I need to be on my toes? When we start talking about marking and how we have 10 seconds of mass chaos. 10 seconds of mass chaos, dancing around, moving all over the place. But the throwing technique that we're going to be working with the kids is I more or less have them standing there and say, okay, I just want you to hold the disc. And the great thing is if you think I said to you, I just want you to throw the disc, but if I give you a target, how more engaged would you be? You're like, yeah, I want to throw it at something. A couple different things. Hula hoops are great to use. You take a hula hoop, put it down there, kids have to throw in the hula hoop. The other thing that works out real well, cones that are standing up this way, but the ultimate one is the big cone with the tennis ball on top. It's one thing knocking the cone down. It's another thing actually knocking just the tennis ball off the cone. So what I might do is if I have, let's say I had 30 kids, I might have 5 cones set up in different spots. I'll break the groups all down, 30 kids, I'll have 6 groups of kids, all throwing a particular cone. If a child throws it, and if you hit the cone, it does knock the cone down, and the ball falls off, but that's not the goal. The goal is to be the first team to actually try to hit just the tennis ball off. If someone knocks it down, someone has to run over there, set it up, and run back again. It's a competition, because what's ultimate frisbee? It's a competition, it's the spirit of the game, it's moving and engaging, getting things like that. You're also working with them, running, picking up something, coming back as you're doing that kind of stuff. So the throwing idea is they're standing here, stay in the spot, and it's just that basic motion. When you're going to throw, don't have them wind up yet. Just have them hold it here and just do the simple, you ready? Just do the wrist. Just release the wrist. That's all you have to do with them. Just have it here and just do the simple wrist with it. Don't have them wind up, because a lot of times you get this. And their heads are turned back and they're not working. So you break it down step by step. We have, with the Learn to Play and the Learn to Compete, we have a total of 10 hours with these kids over 5 weeks. I know the Learn to Compete kids want to play, but eventually down the road they're going to have to learn how to work with that particular teammate on the team and engage everybody. But a lot of times what happens on teams, because you mentioned did you Learn to Compete for a while? I mean,
No.
Okay.
Watched it last year, but didn't assist.
Okay, so to learn to compete, in all honesty, do most kids want to be together in their own team? Like, I want to be with this so-and-so. Well, I never do that. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then as you're counting off, they're trying to switch. So they can figure out where they're going to go, and I'll be 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and then just change it up. That way you're putting the kids in different spots, so they're always not going to be the same kid, and then the teams are rotated around. Making it smaller teams where it might be 4 on 4, smaller fields, breaking it down that way. Because the biggest thing that's going to happen is you want them to last the amount of time that they're going to be doing it as they're going to go through it. So you don't have to do 5 on 5 or 7 on 7. You can just do a set, set the team up and just let them play smaller distances, and also mix it up a little bit so they have to get challenged. Maybe, oh, it's that kid who can't catch anything. Oh my gosh, why do they stick me with him? Well, guess what? You have to learn how to work with that kid. And the best way to do it is find their strengths. Find their strengths. Maybe they're great on defense. Work with them as they're going to go through that. So on the throwing mechanics, break it down always first, you're ready. So I say, everyone ready? Ready. They're all ready to go. Even the little kids, ready, we're ready, we're ready, we're ready. Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to stand here, and I want you to take the disc. And remember, we're going to take our hands, we're going to put it underneath just like we're shaking hands. It's the same concept of doing tennis. You hold the tennis racket, you say shake hands with the tennis racket. So if you have the disc out and they're going to shake hands with it, it's also going to be you having to watch to see what they can do. The other thing about the pool noodle is if I hold it out, it's the same concept. They grab the pool noodle, shaking it with their hand, doing those kind of stuff. I've used this kind of disc before. It's kind of funny as it is, but it's not as heavy as this. And I have enough here. All it is just a twister game, an old twister game. And what this was here is that has little holes on it. And what it allows you to do, allows you to put your thumb on the sides. I'm sorry. And you can actually put your thumb on it and put your fingers underneath. And if you throw it with finesse, it flies fine. If you throw it like a mass chaos, it doesn't go that well. So it's all a matter of I just take it and I'm here just with my wrist, just tossing it. So, once again, the cones fit in, or those cones. The kids are standing here, they have the cones, every kid's going to go here, all right, but here's what I want you to do. I just want to take it and just toss it out. Just toss it. Just toss it. Because we're just trying to get them to fundamentals. We don't want them to take it and throw it. I mean, how many times you've seen the kid who's standing this far away from each other, and they just wind up like this, and they throw it. Ah! Whacked in the nose, those kind of things that are going on. So simple things like this, or even if you don't have the cones, just take the hula hoop and put the hula hoop in a spot, and they got to toss this into the hula hoop. And as soon as they toss it, they run, pick it up, and they're going to keep doing it over and over again. So now you're building the cardiovascular endurance. You're having them move, run, pick it up, run back to their spot, toss it again. They pick it up, do it again, and then just like we have them throwing it back and forth to each other, how many times can you throw it to each other back and forth and catching it, catching it, catching it? How many times can you throw it inside the hula hoop and land it that way? So it's little, now you're like, oh, that's a kiddie stuff. Nah. Basketball, they talk about suicides. They run the basketball court, they run the spots. If you don't call it suicides, call it, we're just going to touch the lines. It's the same concept. They have to build the cardiovascular endurance. When they're younger, ultimate is not just a walking, you just can't walk it. Well, you can. But it's, to be engaged in it, you really have to be able to run up and down. If you only have exactly 7 players for that one game, you're going to be going a long time playing as you're going to be doing it. Do you enjoy playing with 7 players, or do you do it? Yeah, no, more than that, because you can rotate it and actually catch your breath as you're going to go through that. And that's what they have to understand. A lot of kids are coming to this who don't have the cardiovascular endurance. Maybe this is the first time they're going to be exposed to a sport. And I think ultimate is like one of the best ones out there because there's not a lot of contact to it, incidental contact at times. Frisbee hits you in the nose, things that happen like that. But this really helps with throwing the disc. I also challenge the kids who say, oh, we know how to throw this, we know how to throw it. So if you take the same concept here, so we're working on throwing. So our throwing concept is break it down slowly with just the wrist. Then eventually with the wrist, then you can have them turn. If I go back to the pool noodle, what you have them, it's all about the line position. How do you position your body? A lot of times you get, and I've seen it, I mean, I went to nationals and saw it and helped volunteer and teach out there. And I saw the super extended leg coming out of somebody about to throw it. But for kids, we don't want to have them go beyond what they need to go. So it's all about that line position. That's why I say if you have the line, they step on the line, in the position, line up, balancing this way. So if you come back, you can be right back where the pool noodle is. I'm going to step out to the side. So if I'm going to have kids, I might have them stand on one side of the pool noodle and step to one side and come back again. Step and hold it. Come back again. Same thing here. If I'm over here like this, I'm going to throw a backhand. Now sometimes we'll say, oh, you're going to step this way. Some people will say, oh, you have to step forward to throw the backhand. It's going to be instructed different ways. But a lot of times you just want to make sure that they're stepping and keeping their eyes. So it's wrist first. If you teach the wrist first, they won't start going like this. Work on wrist, eyes, seeing what your target is, seeing what you're going to be throwing it at. After you work through there, then eventually they're going to be coming through and turning. Eyes are watching, then the arm can follow through, but freeze it in different spots. Be like, step 1. Okay, we're going to hold the disc for balance. Step 2. Okay, step 3. They're ready to release. And they hold that position, then release as they're going to be going through it. Break it down bit by bit, all together, so everyone's getting the kind of the entire package as one, instead of just, oh, you know how to do it. Pediatricians have told me, they see kids that when they get older, they're the clumsy kids. They don't want to say that they don't know how to play the sport because they don't want to feel uncomfortable with what they're doing. So if you can actually break it down when they're all together, or have the kids just doing it without thinking. Don't call anybody out. Don't say, oh, you know what, your foot wasn't the right way, and you're like, oh, then the kid doesn't want to do it again. Those kind of stuff. So the throwing components that you're going to work through, when you think about it, you want to make sure they're grasping it on that backhand. So the backhand here, the biggest thing is to watch for is that they're holding it back. The thing I've always learned about that handshake. When they shake your hands with it, their thumbs along that top area like that. Now we switch over to when we go to our forehand. They've done the, okay, you put your 2 fingers out and then do the gun, slide the fingers over here and do like that. So I said the tennis ball is going to come back. What I've done with the tennis ball is I've had kids take the tennis ball and put it between the fingers like this. Okay, now why am I having them do that? Because what do they tell you to do with the disc, with those fingers? To squeeze those fingers together and have a good tight grip on it. If this is too hard for the kids, cut that full noodle in half. And then you can take those fingers and put it right in between there. Just something so they can tangibly say, okay, I want you to hold that for me. I want you to hold that so it doesn't fall. And then the more that they do it, they're going to get the understanding, okay, it's a motor skill. Once you do that, you get that concept of, oh, okay, that's how I have to do that. I have to squeeze that. So when I hold this now and get my fingers to put it in there, of course you're going to have this, you have that, you have kids go like this, because they're going to throw it all different ways, but ideally, you want them to hold that there. So when we're holding this, and that flick position, it's the same thing. It's that wrist. Now I did show you this before, for those who didn't see it. This was unbelievable how I came across this thing, because you have your fingers here, and when you actually flick it, if you had actually a wall, that actually bounces off the wall and comes back to you. $2 at Walmart, clear trade now. But the other thing that why we were using this was working on the catching component. So it's one thing about the throwing, and I can go on and on about throwing, but a lot of times in throwing, do you have some kids that say, I only like to do forehand, and they'll never do the backhand. I was amazed by that. I had a lot of kids that like to just flick it all the time. They hated to do the forehand, the backhand. They just wanted to flick it the entire time. But a lot of times on the flick, it's just breaking it down here. It's that step where they're here, learning that basic wrist motion. The other thing too is that the impetus, if I was to take a rope and tie it around your body and have your elbow stuck in there, I think we played with a whole bunch of fathers. We did the parents came and played. All the parents were forced to play Tyrannosaurus Rex arms as we did that. Because what happens then is you're forcing yourself to do this motion here to actually use just that wrist. Because you're going to get a lot of kids that will wind up and kind of go like that right away. Because they see it on the videos, the YouTube, they watch some of the national, what's the team we have in this area, not the Flyers, thank you, yes. I'm learning all that. But they've watched them play, they see the people go like this, and they're like this, and then they huck it like that, and they're going, oh, I can do that, and the first thing they do is they do this, and the thing goes out that way. So if it's just that basic, simple, stepping out, have the freeze, same concept. Step out, freeze. Okay, hold it there, get that wrist action. Just have them just take it and just toss it with just that wrist motion. Then eventually work it, but it's also the pointing. If I'm going to throw it to you here, and I'm like this, if I'm going to take it, I'm going to point, and when I throw it, I want to serve the platter D. when it comes out to you. Okay, it's the opposite of when I'm going to be throwing a backhand. As I'm going this way, my hand's going to be kind of pointing out this way. But if I want to go and flick to you, take it and serve it out. So my hand's coming out to you that way. When you break it down slowly, the easier it gets for kids. Yeah, and that also works there with these. And these also work out well too, because when they hold it there, you can have them, but just taking the concept of just tossing, just getting that motion down, because it is one of the, because they'll want to throw it. So throwing's easy, right? So the more we can put targets for them and throwing at those kind of stuff works well. But what happens after our throwing is then catching. So you get the kid who can throw it really well, and you get the kid who can't catch it. So how many of you actually, before they even throw it to another person, actually just have them doing it in front of them? Do you guys do that, or do they have them throw it to each other? Yeah, okay, right, which is fine because you're waiting for them to go to it. But just like if I said, I want you to learn to bounce a tennis ball, catch it, throw it, and catch it, well, why don't we do that with a frisbee, with a disc? So we toss the ball up, we learn how to toss with one hand, toss with the other hand, but why not take it with the disc? So with the disc itself, you can do the same concept. You have the disc, the kids can do, okay, now we're going to go through. What is this kind of catch called? You have alligator out. What's this one? Now you'll hear pancake and alligator, but then pancake was, well, what's the difference between the two? Well, alligator, they're saying, is alligators are coming out, and pancake is, but in the positioning, where do you want your body always to be? Yep, right. Wherever the disc is coming, it's going to come right at us this way. It's the same idea as in football. I need a volunteer. You're looking at these strange things that keep bringing it out. It's really, it's all it is a pool noodle. 101 uses for a pool noodle. What someone told me is I should make my business card a pool noodle. But this is just a basic weighted pool noodle. Now the reason why we're going to go through this is because I want you to demonstrate. So if I was going to throw this at you, okay? Now if you think about a sport. In football, they tell you to do the triangle position. Get triangle hands. It's the same thing in ultimate. Because the ball comes up, triangle hands here. The ball's going to come right through there. Going through the middle. Ball comes down, football comes down low, your hands will have to switch. So it's now pinkies together, pinkies and thumbs. So we talk about bear claws, we talk about alligator and pancake, and then we have our clams or other different things they have, but you have your lower one, two, but your pinkies are going to be down. So your pinkies are here. As your hands come up, what I want you to do is just take your hands and put them down like this. Now what I want you to do is I just want you to move your hands up, but as you move it up, you're going to have to be forced to turn it that way. And that's kind of what we're happening here. I take this object and I throw it right at his chest. Okay? Your hands are going to grasp that. Now if I take this exact same object and throw it this way to you, okay, now I want you to, no, you're fine. You're going to try to catch it with your hands out, away from it. Your hand's going to be out. So what happens if I take this and throw it out this way, you just take it again and throw it out this way, and take it again and throw it out this way, what am I building in that child that was afraid of the frisbee now? Trust. Yeah, I'm building some confidence now. So let's say I don't want to use this. Well, here goes the pool noodle again. 101 uses, I said. As I have this in my hand, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to swing this at you. I want you to stop with your hands. Okay, I'm going to swing it down again. Okay, I'm going to swing it in front of you. Okay, I'm going to swing it up again. Swing it down again. Bring it up. What we're doing is we're teaching them that skill. So now when I take this and throw it to them, they're ready for it. Very easy. So that's kind of what happens with the catching. You want to do something creatively to break it down, so they can, it's also the chicken dance. I've done that with them too. But you want them to understand that hands have to be big. Like when you're going to do it, you want to watch it. Your eyes were closed, and I've had the kids, say, I'll bring out the blindfold and say, okay, I'm now ready to catch it, and they'll throw it at me, and they'll hit me here, and hit me over here, I'll protect my face. But you want to make sure that you're ready to catch it, watching it, keeping your eyes on it. So it goes the exact same thing. We go back to the balance. I'm balanced, I'm ready, I'm watching. So if it's going to come up here, up high, I got my bear claws ready to go. If it's going to come in the middle area, I have the crocodile coming through. I also have that pancake as it's coming through. Coming down low, you can do lobster claws, you can do the clams, but you're going to want to watch it moving. But what's happening is you can't be stiff. So why I say we want to be ready, the ready position, knees are bent, you're ready to move. Just like in baseball. When I'm fielding the ball, I move to scoop up. I got to move to go over this way. I got to run, I got to keep my body in line with that ball. So we're going to move and watch it this way. So it's a universal. skill. It's just we don't think about that one. I do, unfortunately, sometimes. But what's going to happen is when we go through the catchings, you want to make sure that when you start pairing off, that you don't have that kid that's going to just take and whip it. Because then right off the bat, first 3 throws, 4 throws, that kid doesn't want to come back. Or they're scared of it now. They do this when it comes to them, they're like that kind of stuff. So the more that you can do easy tosses. So what we do self-tossing is you have the disc here. If you just take it, have it hold it like this, drop it. So a lot of times it's hard for a kid to throw it up in the air when they're younger because they do this and it's not easy. So if you just have it hold it like this, just drop it. Hold it like this, just drop it. Hold it here this way, now try to catch with the 2 hands. And then eventually you can have them try to take it and go up high. It's a little higher when it's harder when you do it, that kind of toss step. So it's those kind of dropping things, just that basic reflexes of stuff. Because you're saying, that's common sense, everyone knows how to do it. How frustrating would it be that you know you're about to score and the disc is going right to the person, they decide to be fancy and they grab with one hand and it drops down. They tell baseball players to use 2 hands to catch the ball. That kind of concept as you're going to go through it. So the more that they can do that over and over again, catching it, holding it here, dropping it down. And everything that I show, I always try to encourage the parents to watch what we're doing so they can go home and practice it while they're with their kids. Because the more they practice it, then the next time they come together, it doesn't build much of a frustration. They're learning those skills as they're doing those kind of stuff. All right, got a lot to go through. You guys doing all right? Just making sure. Yeah, I know I'm running through a whole bunch of stuff, and I can go on for a while. But it's like I'm trying to make sure I hit a bunch of different things. So what's happening when we start working on a lot of these skills and these things with the kids? So I use the pool noodle because you want to build the confidence in them. You want to be able to have them catching it. Eventually, you have to work on now our targeting. Like what's ultimate all about? Is it just about me taking it, having a kid run down the field and just throw it as far as I can and hopefully someone catches it? We go back to the number system idea. We go back to the cutting. So we're first going to introduce, before I go into cutting, I'm going to tie into pivoting and then I'll tie into cutting. Hula hoops. So we talk about pivoting. I use a hula hoop. Or I will use, if you want to have a poly spots, I don't think we have poly spots, paper plates work real well too. You can put anything at the circle, even those discs that I have right there in your hands work real well too. Something that you can put down, even like the older flat frisbees I use, sometimes I use the smaller ones. Pool noodles don't work real well. But anyway, what's happening on the pivot is I work with the kids to learn about a pivot foot. So actually once I catch the disc, I can't just keep dancing around. I have to keep one foot down on the spot. So if I'm going to be pivoting, you're learning about that line. So you're on the line, one foot's going one way, you're moving to the other side. So that circle helps them to actually spin and move on that line. The reason why I have the hula hoop here is if I stop and stand inside the hula hoop, I'm going to work on moving inside that hula hoop, as in doing it that way. So I'm putting it this way. Now the other reason for the hula hoop is now we're going to throw in our mark. The person who's going to be marking. Now marking is our defenders. So I'm kind of going to be taking a bunch of different pieces and throwing it all together so it'll all make sense in a moment. But I need someone to mark me in front of me. So anyone who would want to stand up and be a marker right up in here? Oh, there we go. So I have my disc over here. So we talk about disc space, and we try to teach the kids about disc space. So how would I want to instruct a kid to mark, to learning about marking for the first time? Like, what would you guys suggest? If I want to teach a kid about marking, what would I want to, like, what are the key things they want to get out of it? How long?
10 seconds.
Okay. How long?
Can't touch the handler.
Right.
And the disc is part of the handler.
Okay, so the hula hoop. The hula hoop then becomes what I call the disc space. All right, so we talk about don't touch the handle. So now this is my disc space in here. So I'm now here. So now she's starting to understand that this is my disc space. Because that's the one thing that I've come across that they're like all on top of each other. If you actually give them something visual to see that this is my disc space. If you don't have a hula hoop, a piece of string, put something that, like a couple of cone markers around it, but they have that disc space. So now I can come through here, I can pivot out this way. If I come back in here again, you're starting to understand my disc space. All right, so now, she has her hands out there. I'm gonna have her put your hands behind your back. Why would I want her to mark with her hands behind her back first? What's gonna help me?
Move her feet.
Yep, move feet. So it's 10 seconds of dancing, I call it. It is. I mean, it's literally, that's why you have the pull. You're on your toes. I say, okay, and that's when we're doing the jumping. You know, everyone's here. Okay, when I say go, you're going to move for 10 seconds. And they're like, what? And I'll just have them just do this for 10 seconds. Or 10 stall. And they're just moving. I say, okay, now you got to go like this for 10 seconds. And then eventually, we're here. And if she's there, I'll say, okay, stall 1, 2, 3. Now, what is she looking for? What is she following? What is she following when I'm moving? Disc. What are some other things you can tell the kids to follow? On top of just this. She's following it. Yep. Well, you can say the shoulders sometimes, but it's actually the shoulder of where the disc is. You say the shoulders, I can be like this. You know, moving the shoulder over here, but it's actually where the disc is. And also my eyes are going to give away where I want to throw it to. But depending upon the age of what you're working with, it's going to be a little bit, can be easy or hard. So when the kids are younger, you say, okay, what are you going to follow? I'm going to follow the disc. Okay, good. You follow the disc. Watch where we're going to go, as they're going to be moving. So watch as the disc is going to be moving. If they move it this way, you follow the disc, and you move that way. If it goes over this way, you mark this way. So instead of having their hands flailing like maniacs, have their hands behind their back. Then after 10 seconds, you would take this, and we switch. And the roles are just reversed now. So I'm here, and then someone would count. Ready? You know, so you might say, disc in. And then we're going, you know, we're just moving, and I'm moving around, and I'm just kind of following as I'm going through. Time's up, we switch. I take this, she takes that, we go through that. And that's kind of a cycle, rotation stuff. Because a lot of times they don't realize that it's just like if I said we're going to dribble a soccer ball. But first we're going to use this first. And then we get to a soccer ball, it's going to be 10 times easier. Because it's huge compared to this tiny little thing. But when you start using a tennis ball, you start actually using the bottom of your feet and controlling it and moving it around. When you get to a soccer ball, it's like, wow, this thing is like monstrous in size. Break it down bit by bit, hands behind the back, moving around that way. After you go through that scenario of hands behind the back, then you add the arms. Now, how are the arms supposed to be moving around when you do it? Like, what have been told to you when you move your arms? Like, just think about how you've been instructed. I mean, has there been instruction? Is it just arms are out and
one mid and one usually hides, and the mid is usually the same size as the disc.
So think about how they throw the disc most of the times. Is it usually up here for a lot of the kids, or is it usually down low? Right. So let's think about in basketball. When you're here, you're guarding a basketball. You're like this. So is that ready position again? Everyone ready? Yep, I'm ready. And then you can move your hands all around. And I've watched kids do like this whole thing like that for 10 seconds. But it's also remembering this is the zone. Don't come in and put your hands in on me. Keep it outside of that area. So when I'm here and I'm pivoting and I'm moving around and she's over here and I'm stepping out, that she's watching as I'm moving this way. And I'm trying to pivot and move. So the reason why we do that freeze is that eventually they learn to step out and to kind of take that flick. Now, I can go into more detail, but you also have the elbow closed, and then it's harder once a kid does a flick and extends the arm.